Hello everybody, today is March 1st and that means it is Lenormarch. And who do we have here but Miss Isabel? I had to use obviously this deck for the very first draw for Lenormarch. I'm just gonna see, I want to say Lenormarch, but it's Lenormarch. We have to use this one because it's Miss Isabel's Lenormand that wonderful Quilfin drew for me, card by card by card, and so I'm definitely going to be using this particular deck today. But I did want to put a quick tip out there because there were some people I noticed that were saying that they were waiting for their very first Lenormand deck to come, and or they didn't have a Lenormand deck and they might decide, oh, at the last minute I want to go join in on this, but they don't have a Lenormand deck. You can get a deck of cards. Now this is a mini set, which I think is perfect, but you can get a regular size deck of cards, or you can get a mini deck of cards like this at toy stores, Walgreens, any place you can get a deck of cards. And the mini cards, you still see the mini cards around quite a few places. So all Lenormand is 36 of the cards. And so you can take, oh, this is the one that I didn't, oh, these are the ones I didn't use. So this deck, this little cute gold pouch, somebody sent me a stone in it, now holds this cute little deck. You can go through and take each of the cards that relate to Lenormand and simply write the word on it. So you'll see here is the 10 of hearts, and it has the word dog written on it and number 18. This one just has moon on it because remember, Lenormand is not about the pictures, and in some ways this might be helpful to those of us who are switching from tarot to Lenormand, because one of the problems that people have when they're switching from tarot to Lenormand is they want to get all in there and on the symbolism, and oh, well, I see this little rabbit over here in the grass underneath the tree, and that must symbolize XYZ. No, it doesn't. It's the tree card. And the tree card means the tree card means the tree card. It doesn't matter what deck it is. It doesn't matter what picture's on there. It's the tree card. So having a card deck that simply says tree on it is going to be perfectly acceptable and in some ways helpful if you're finding yourself, getting all esoteric in it, because Lenormand, it doesn't mean that you can't get esoteric with Lenormand, but if you're just starting out, Lenormand is very clear, blunt, and concise, and it really doesn't matter what picture is on there. So this is a really cheap, really easy way to get a hold of a Lenormand deck. And all you have to do, let me see if I can't remember. I don't have the handout with me that I have in the very first video for you with all the key meanings, because I can't remember if the playing card associations are on there. If not, it's very easy to find. If you just Google Lenormand playing card associations, they'll have a list of the playing cards and a list of the, what the Lenormand name is, and you can, bam, there you have it, have a cheap, easy way to do. The other thing is if you have a Lenormand deck, but you don't have a mini deck, because mini Lenormand decks are harder to find, and they're so handy because if you're laying out 36 cards, even playing card size, that can take a good space on the table, whereas a mini deck really condenses your space. And so if you don't have a mini deck and need to have that space saving, I can't talk. Space saving. Please don't add that blurbeliness to your guys' t-shirt list of things that Kelly said going on the Facebook group. But this mini deck would be a cheap way for you to get a mini Lenormand deck if you just have a regular one. So there you go. I wanted to make sure I mentioned that because quite a few people I knew were still waiting for decks and or just didn't have one and wasn't sure if they want to buy one, although you can get a Lenormand deck, $10-ish or nothing. They're a lot cheaper than a tarot deck. But if you just want to wait and see if you actually like it, there you go. Tip from you to me, from me to you. Whatever. Don't listen to me. Okay, so that was the one tip I wanted to make sure that I got in. I have already seen some people posting their first Lenormand draws on Instagram and on the Facebook group. I will put a link to The Facebook group, it will show up as closed. You will have to request an invitation. We're not denying anybody invitation into the Facebook group. It's just a way for me to control things if there comes a problem down the line, and B, there are many people who don't necessarily want tarot and that kind of stuff showing up on their regular Facebook feed, and so having it closed is conducive for that. So but just go ahead and request an invite and you'll get in, I'll put you in there, or Quilfin will as well. She's in on as an administrator, or Patrick, so who moderates the live chats, as you all call him, Thor of the moderation hammer. So so go ahead and do that. I'll put a link to that below. If you are putting Instagram pictures of your Lenormarch spreads, make sure you hashtag Lenormarch. That way I can just click that and see everybody's, even if I haven't followed you on Instagram, because there have been a flood of new people on Instagram. For many people on the Facebook group created Instagram accounts just to do the dive deep, the within without advice challenge that we're doing on Instagram, and so I know that I do not have everybody followed that is participating. So if you use the hashtags Lenormarch and or hashtag within without advice, we can just click on those and see them whether we're following you or not. So make sure you remember to do that, and please feel free to tag me at The Truth and Story, because then it goes right into my notification box so I can see what you guys have been up to. So it was exciting this morning between within without advice starting and Lenormarch starting. My Instagram and Facebook notifications were going off the wall, which I'm assuming probably is going to continue throughout the day. I am trying to comment on everybody's videos or pictures or whatever. And actually I saw a first video this morning too, Mr. Lunar, who changed his name in the last live chat because that's all I ever call him. He put up his first video on YouTube doing his first draw for Lenormarch. So very exciting. If you put a video up, please send me the link, either link in the comments below, or if you're going to be doing the challenge on YouTube, make sure you let me know so I can take a look at your videos. So I think that has covered all of the miscellaneous stuff that we need to cover. I will go ahead and put another link to the handout and to the very first video, because I did a first video, if you missed that kind of introduced what we were doing, talked about ways, because I know a lot of the people who are doing this because they don't read Lenormand. And so I did give you some ideas how you can just dive right in there for this, because today is just pull some cards. Just see what comes up. Don't worry about it. Don't stress about what the meanings are. What does it say to you? Just throw some cards on the table and do it. In the first video, I did give some suggestions on some easy spreads that you could do to do that. So don't stress about it. The whole point is, if the point is to learn about Lenormand in 31 days, you're not expected to have it down on day one. So don't worry about it. Just put it up there, put some cards out, because then at the end you can go back to your first reading and kind of say, oh, okay, there might have been some other things going on there that I didn't pick up, but now that I am a Lenormand aficionado, I can see what it's saying better. So don't stress about it. And please, feel free to ask for help. If you draw some cards during the course of this challenge and you're like, I have no clue, there's nothing wrong with saying, okay, here's my cards, I have no clue. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the whole point. There's a bunch of people doing this. People are more than happy to jump in and say, oh, this looks like, it's this to me. It might be saying something different to you, but this is kind of what pops to mind, and that can be helpful. So don't stress. This is not a stressful challenge. Within Without Advice is not a stressful challenge. If it starts to feel stressful, it's time to take a step back and skip a day and take a breath. Okay. All right. I'm going to flip the camera down so I can really quick do a draw. I'm going to go off of the garden card because that's kind of the social community card, and just kind of get a little mini reading on how this whole thing is going to go for all of us together. And then I will be seeing you tomorrow and every day this month. Okay, let's flip this down. So today's, if you use your little handout here, today is day 1 and it's just an opening reading. Tomorrow, I'm trying to, the day before, touch on the next day in case it's, you know, for people who are completely new. So tomorrow is just asking the question about your experience with Lenormand. What are you starting out with? Knowing about Lenormand and or not knowing. If you don't know anything, just say, I am, you know, this is how I heard about it. This is why I'm interested in it. Just whatever you want to do about it. And then we're going to start getting into books and decks and all that good thing. All those good things, maybe even. So yes, today I was going to, the last video show all my Lenormand decks, but we actually have a day for that, so I'm not going to do it other than that tip on the playing cards. And then this is a absolutely gorgeous deck that Quilfin made for me for Christmas, and it has Isabel's picture on the dog card. Look at, she flipped right up. See, look at how cute she is. And so it is known across the Lenormand circles as the Isabel's Lenormand, which is adorable. So let's just, this is an easy way to do a drawing. Now I'm going to do 9 cards just because that way you can see how this goes. But you can, you know, I showed in the first video, you can draw a card before, a card after, 2 cards before, 2 cards after. Or if you're going to do a 9 card, you would draw 4 cards before and 4 cards after. So what you do is shuffle your cards and then flip it over, and you would actually look through the cards and find the card that you're focusing on. What is the card that best expresses whatever it is you're asking about? So what I said is I'm going to do the garden because the garden is about community. And so here's the garden card. So what I'll do is I'll take 4 cards after it and 4 cards before it. Now, when you first do the 9 card, it feels a little awkward to make sure you get it right. And I think I actually did a reading for Mr. Lunar, and I got him whopper jawed, and I just go with it. But now I'm pretty comfortable. So what you do is take that middle card that you're going to go off of. Because remember, Lenormand is all about proximity. So it is about what cards are close to what other cards. You don't read a Lenormand card like this all by itself, the garden card. That doesn't tell us anything. Whereas in tarot or oracle, you can pull 1 card and do quite a deep reading off of it. Lenormand does not work that way. It works in proximity to other cards. And so this is a way to not do a grand tableau, but still have that proximity intact. I use it all the time for my 3 voices readings. This is a way that I do it quite often, and it works beautifully. So here's the cards that are after it. So we start, here's the middle card, do the 1 after, and then do 1, 2, 3 below it. So the cards before, it's right before it, and 1, 2, 3, 4. And so there we have a 9 cards surrounding the garden without having to lay out all 36 cards, which is fantastic because then, as you know, if you watch my channel, I'll go on to do tarot cards here and oracle cards here, and then that's my 3 voices reading, which is my primary larger reading that I do. So it really is a great base for things as well. So when you do a 9 card and you picked what the middle card is, then the top left card becomes the theme of the spread for me. And so the top card here is the letter card. And so the letter is about messages, it's about written messages, it's about written communication. And that certainly makes sense with Lenormarch because lots of people are sending messages, they're putting up pictures and writing out what it is that those mean to them, and we're getting them on Facebook, we're getting them on Instagram, people are emailing to me, them to me, and so we have lots of messages going on in the community, especially moving into March. So that's the first thing that you would look at. Then you can split these. Now traditionally you could do past, present, and future lines here. Because of the way that you pick the cards, where you pick these are the ones that were before and these are the ones after, a lot of times I'll use this for the past and then this going into the future as if it was a line on your grand tableau. Excuse me, my throat's still a little funky. So, if you had a line on the grand tableau and the garden was here, we would look to what was before and what was after going into it. And so this functions the same way, just in a 9 card. But we're not going to go into that too far because this is just our opening shot, and we just want to get a feel for laying out some cards and seeing what it quickly has to say to us. So we look there, we've got messages. Look what we have on either side of the garden card. We have the fish card, which is about money. I'm pretty sure that we're none of us making any money on Lenormarch. More than likely, you're out there spending money on buying new decks, which I didn't think about when I started it, but Instagram, people started putting, I'm like, oh, that's a nice deck. I'm like, this could not be a good idea. So we all might want to keep track of our finances this month and don't get swayed into buying 20 Lenormand decks, because you only need one. And you can do it cheaply with a little deck of bicycle cards. So there is your service announcement, because people on Facebook want to put a t-shirt saying that it's all my fault when you buy tarot card decks and oracle decks. No. I'm telling you, you need one, and you can get yourself a cheap bicycle card pack. I'll make one, so don't be blaming me if you don't have food money at the end of the month. So there we have fine, but fish can also be about abundance, and so we have abundance of good luck. Look, we've got the clover here with the ladybug, which also has connotations of good luck symbolically. So I love that we have that on either side of the garden. And look at this down here. We have the the broom and the whip, which also known as the brip card. The broom and the whip card is about repetitiveness. So if you think about when you're sweeping the floor, you're sweeping the floor, repetitive motions. Now this can be about disagreements, which is where the whip would come in, where you're kind of repeatedly, annoyingly arguing with somebody. But it is also just about repetition. And so we have repetitive commitment. So we have the ring card. The rings, so yes, you see the rings and you think, oh, that's marriage. Well, yes, remember, this was back, these cards were back in the time in which a committed relationship would be one that would be to be with marriage. But this is also commitment in all different avenues. This can be business commitments. There's all kinds of like contractual things that it could be. But if you think about in the past where marriage was a contract, that can very often be the case with the cards. Well, it's still technically a contract as well today. So while at first look, you do want to say, okay, ring is a ring is a ring. But, think about it in context of your question. If you're not asking a question about love, then the rings probably don't mean that you're getting ready to get married. It just means you're having a commitment to something. So what are we having a commitment to? We're having a commitment to knowledge. So here we have the book card, which is perfect for going into Lenormarch, where we are going to be learning about Lenormand, because we have repeated commitment to knowledge. So that means that you may struggle a little bit in the middle of the month, but reaffirm your commitment to it, and you're going to come out of this month knowing a lot more about Lenormand than you did when you came in. So I quite like how that showed up down there. We also have positive movement. And I'm really happy that this card showed up, because this is the scythe card. Now, people read this as a painful cutting because they think about the death card, or not the death card. You think about the image of death, and he's got his long black robe on, and he's got his scythe or his sickle, and he is going out to call the human race and bring in the souls of the dead, right? Look at this card. Now this is pretty stuff. Somebody drew this. Lovely Quilfin drew this for me. But this is the standard image that you're going to see, which is of a scythe in a field, a scythe with bales of hay all next to it. It's always in relation to, except for some thematic decks, it's generally in relation to harvest. So we have, if you think about this, we have an ending card in the coffin card. It doesn't get much more clear than that. The coffin card is an ending. It's over, it's ended, done. The scythe, we don't really need another cutting off card that functions the exact same as the coffin card. So the scythe, is it painful? If yes, if the devil comes or the death comes with a scythe and chops your head off, it's probably going to be painful. But that's not the connotation here. The connotation here is of harvest. So it is the end of something that brings harvest. It brings you something. There's something good that comes of it. So we have positive change here, and in the end, what are you going to get? We're going to reap knowledge, which is what we have down at the bottom. So I'm glad that that one came up. This is one of the cards that I read differently than traditionalists, as well as the fox card, but I'm sure the fox card will come up. And by the end of the month, we will be going through all of these cards, so you'll have an idea of it. But think about that. You can use this as a painful cutting off. There's many ways to use the scythe card, and the thing that you want to focus on this month is what's important is not gathering every single person's idea of what a card means, but figuring out what it means to you and then staying consistent with that. Because otherwise, if you have 20 meanings and you just kind of, well, who knows what that's going to mean today, you're going to get really muddy readings. So it's about figuring out what makes sense to you, what works for you, and using those kind of meanings consistently. So there you go. First little lesson on your first card, but the scythe will come up again in day 11 with the bouquet. So there we go. I'm really happy with how this looks, and I will pop a picture up on Instagram for everybody. And I'm really excited to see all of your first draws. So just throw the cards out there, break the ice, break the seal on the deck, get it shuffled, get it in there in motion, and we're going to have fun this month. So nobody stress, have fun, and I will see you all tomorrow.